In a quiet valley, nestled between gentle rolling hills, lay a small and peaceful village. This was the home of a young boy named Adeel. He was a boy with kind eyes and a curious heart, who loved to listen to the stories the old folk told. His village was a lovely place during the day, full of the sounds of children playing and the smell of baking bread. But when the sun dipped below the horizon, a deep and profound darkness would blanket everything. There were no bright city lights here, no glowing signs to pierce the gloom. The nights were as black as a raven's wing, a thick velvet curtain that made even familiar paths seem strange and unknown. The villagers were accustomed to this nightly cloak of darkness. They knew the shapes of their homes by heart and could navigate the winding lanes through memory alone. Yet, the darkness was not a friend. It carried with it a quiet, unspoken fear. It made the hoot of an owl sound like a warning, and the rustle of leaves seem like the footsteps of something unseen. The children would huddle close to their parents, their imaginations painting frightening monsters in the deep shadows that danced just beyond the reach of their doorways. The world of the village simply shrank when the sun went away, becoming a small, fragile bubble of human warmth against an ocean of night. Adeel, like all the other children, felt the chill of the long, dark nights. He would look out of his small window, trying to see the friendly shape of his neighbor's roof, but often he could see nothing at all. It was a complete and total absence of light. He longed for the moon, but she was a fickle visitor, often hiding her face behind a thick veil of clouds. The stars, though beautiful, were distant and small, their silver light too faint to truly push back the heavy darkness that pressed in on the village from all sides. The night was a time for staying inside, for being still, and for waiting patiently for the morning sun to return and chase the shadows away. This endless cycle of bright days and profoundly dark nights was the rhythm of life in the village. The people had learned to live with it, but they had not learned to love it. The darkness was a weight upon their spirits, a constant reminder of their isolation. It made the world feel smaller, and it made their fears feel much, much bigger. In this world of sharp contrasts, the simple act of seeing was a gift, and the ability to create light was a power reserved for the daytime. The night belonged to the shadows, and in their silent, creeping presence, a seed of unease was always sown in the hearts of the villagers. In the very center of the village square stood a tall wooden post. Upon this post hung the village's single most precious treasure, a large, old-fashioned lantern. It was not a magical lantern, but it was the closest thing to magic the village possessed. Every evening, as dusk began to settle, the village elder would carefully light its wick. Its warm, golden glow was a beacon of safety, a small sun that fought valiantly against the encroaching night. It did not light up the whole village, not by a long stretch, but it cast a circle of reassuring light in the square, a place where people could gather for a short while before retreating to their homes. This solitary flame was more than just a light. It was a symbol of their community and their shared hope. It was a gathering point, a place where stories were exchanged and laughter could be heard, pushing back the silence of the night. The children felt braver in its gentle radiance, and the adults found comfort in its steady, unwavering presence. The lantern represented their collective strength against the vast, intimidating darkness. It was a promise that even in the deepest night, there was a point of connection, a small island of warmth and fellowship that held them all together. Its light was the heartbeat of the village after the sun had gone to rest. One evening, a fierce wind began to howl down from the hills. It was a wild and angry wind, rattling windows and tearing at the thatched roofs. The villagers huddled inside, listening to the storm's fury. In the square, the old lantern swung violently on its post, its flame flickering and dancing as if in a desperate fight for its life. Then, with a sudden sharp crack, a powerful gust of wind ripped the lantern from its hook. It tumbled through the air before crashing against the hard, stony ground. The sound of shattering glass was lost in the roar of the wind, but the sudden, absolute darkness that followed was felt by everyone. The next morning, the villagers gathered around the broken remains. The glass was shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces, and the metal frame was bent and twisted. The heart of their village night was broken. A wave of despair washed over the people. The coming night now seemed more threatening than ever before. Fear, which had always lurked at the edges, now stepped boldly into the center of their thoughts. The children were quiet, their eyes wide with worry. The adults spoke in hushed, anxious tones. How would they face the complete and utter blackness without their single comforting flame to guide them and give them courage? As the sun began its descent that evening, a heavy silence fell over the village. The people locked their doors earlier than usual, the absence of the lantern's expected glow creating a palpable sense of dread. But while others gave in to their fear, young Adeel sat by his window, his mind racing. He could not accept this new, deeper darkness. He looked up at the sky where the first stars were beginning to appear, like tiny scattered diamonds on a vast, dark cloth. They were small, but they were lights. An idea, bold and brave, began to form in his mind. He would not wait for the light to come to him. He would go and find it himself. Adeel knew the stories the elders told about the highest hill that overlooked the village, a place they called the Star Climber's Peak. Legends said that it was so tall, it almost touched the heavens, and that sometimes, pieces of the night sky would fall and rest there. No one ever went up there at night, for the path was steep and treacherous. But Adeel was not thinking of the danger. He was thinking of his neighbors, cowering in their homes. He was thinking of the frightened children. He made a decision. He would climb the hill. He would use the very stars that seemed so far away as his guides on the dark path. Quietly, so as not to wake his sleeping parents, Adeel slipped out of his house. The darkness in the village was total, more complete than he had ever experienced. But as his eyes adjusted, he looked up and focused on the brightest cluster of stars. He had always loved watching them, and now they would be his map. He set his small feet on the winding path that led out of the village and up the slope of the great hill. The journey was difficult. Loose stones shifted under his feet, and thorny bushes snagged at his clothes. The sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, and the distant call of a night bird seemed amplified in the silence. Step by step, guided by the celestial light above, Adeel climbed higher and higher. He was tired, and his legs ached, but the thought of returning to the village with a new light spurred him on. He did not let fear take hold. He focused on the steady, ancient light of the stars, imagining they were the friendly eyes of 1,000 ancestors watching over him, encouraging him to keep going. He felt a connection to life, a sense of purpose that made him feel stronger than his small size would suggest. He was just a boy, climbing a dark hill, but in that moment, he was on a quest as grand as any hero from the old stories. After what felt like an eternity of climbing, Adeel finally reached the summit of the hill. He was out of breath, his hands and knees were scraped, but he had made it. The air was cool and thin up here, and the stars seemed so close he felt he could almost reach out and touch them. He stood on the peak, the whole world spread out below him like a dark sleeping sea. And then, he saw it. Tucked away in a small hollow between two ancient rocks was a soft, gentle glow. It was not a flame, but something else entirely, something he had never seen before. It was a light that seemed to be alive. He walked towards it cautiously. Lying in the hollow was a stone, about the size of a large loaf of bread. It was smooth and gray, like any other rock, but it was emitting a beautiful, luminous light. The light was a soft, silvery white, pulsing gently like a resting heart. It was cool to the touch, not hot like a fire. Adeel stared at it in wonder. The legend was true. A piece of the sky had fallen and come to rest here. He carefully lifted the glowing stone. It was heavy, but he held it tight in his arms, his heart pounding with excitement. This was the new light for his village. This was the hope he had been searching for. The journey back down the hill was much easier. The glowing stone in his arms lit the path before him, turning the treacherous track into a clear silver ribbon. The deep, menacing shadows retreated from its radiance, and the frightening night sounds softened into a gentle background chorus. Adeel walked with a newfound confidence, the stone's light not only illuminating the path, but also filling his own heart with an unshakable courage. He was no longer just a small boy. He was a bringer of light, a carrier of hope, and he could not wait to share his discovery with everyone he loved. As he entered the village, the first person to see him was an old woman who had been peering fearfully from her window. A gasp escaped her lips as she saw the boy appear out of the darkness, bathed in a gentle, ethereal glow. Soon, doors began to open all over the village. People emerged from their homes, their faces a mixture of disbelief and awe. Adeel walked to the center of the square, to the post where the old lantern had once hung, and placed the glowing stone at its base. The stone's light spread outwards, soft and brilliant, pushing back the darkness and illuminating the entire square in its beautiful, steady light. The village was filled with a light more wonderful than any they had ever known, and at its center stood Adeel, the brave boy who had climbed into the darkness and brought back the dawn. The villagers cheered, their fear replaced by joy and gratitude, celebrating the courage that had brought hope back to their world.